Hi, I'm Kim Nyer,
And I'm Tracy Ellers.
and today we're going to be talking about two chapters of our book, Risen Motherhood, the gospel and our birth experiences, and our postpartum body image.
This one is like super pertinent to me
Yeah.
because I'm 35 weeks pregnant.
So you're kind of like in between because this is your third baby, so you've already done this before, and you're kind of still in postpartum.
Anytime after the first, for the rest of your life is really postpartum.
I agree. You know, I'm currently 5 years postpartum. Or if you want to go by the latest child.
Yeah.
If you want to go by the first, then I'm 11 years postpartum.
It never ends.
Oh, so good. Okay, well, when we talk about like our birth experiences, I have to go way back, but it's still very vivid in my mind. As I was reading this chapter and they were talking about like how you go into it with certain expectations and maybe you have a birth plan. With my first, I totally did that. My birth experience was very different from what I anticipated. I had this vision of being calm and in control and things going well, and it ended up being more like me yelling and getting an episiotomy, which was awful. Just having the doctor come at you with a pair of scissors, and I had no epidural, and then I had to get stitches. See, I can laugh about all this now because it's so long ago, but in the months, like in the 6 months after or so after I had Micah, I was traumatized. I would wake up in the middle of the night sweating, still clenched, because I was having like flashback dreams of being in pain and labor. To counteract that for our viewers, I'm going to tell you about my third birth, which was a cakewalk. Okay, I knew I was in labor, and so I went to the Rockford City Market to get my corn on the cob before I went to the hospital because I had been putting it off all summer, and I was like, I need it. So I did that, and I rode the trolley, having contractions, and I called my mom and said, you know, it's happening, and then got back to the house. This is when I was running a photography business. Finished up some client orders, submitted them, set up an email. Anyway, got to the hospital, acted like I was in more pain than I was in so I could get the epidural. Got the epidural, relaxed through the evening, 6:30 in the morning, pushed very gently for like 10 minutes. Third baby just comes out like a charm. She was born, immediately nursed, 0 complications, and when they put her on the table to weigh her and do her footprints, my breakfast cart rolled in. So, ended on a high note. I just want to throw that out there. You could have a negative one and a positive experience. So what about you? You have a little more exciting story to share, I think.
I don't know if they're exciting. Both my births themselves were like
really nice.
Smooth sailing.
Yes.
I mean, I didn't have a birth plan for either one.
Yeah.
So you just show up, and we didn't pick names until we got to the hospital, and just kept ourselves busy. But I think my pregnancies leading up to birth were not as I had planned. Our first one, you just don't know what to expect when you're having your first kid. At 17 weeks, we ran into some growth complications, and they told us there's about a 3% chance that this child will survive. So prepare yourselves for a stillbirth. And we just went home, and you just sit with it, and you think to yourself immediately, like, was it something I did? All these things run through your mind. But the Lord was faithful, and we went through a long rest of the pregnancy and a lot of imaging and things like that. And at 37 weeks, we delivered a healthy, beautiful 4-pound, just a little 4-pound, 11-ounce baby girl. And I think to some extent that was the reason we didn't have a birth plan.
I was just thinking that too. I was like, that you and I had opposite expectations during our pregnancy. And so I feel like your birth experience maybe even have been more positive because of
I think very early on we just realized we are not in control.
Yeah.
We have no idea how this is going to turn out. We need to just trust the doctors because they know more than we do, and just roll with the punches. So it was just really nice to have that perspective and just focus on a healthy baby. Our second pregnancy, I was really worried about having a repeat of the first one, but we had a 7-pounder, so almost double the size. I think I was more nervous along the way throughout pregnancy about all the what ifs. What if this happens? What if that happens? Did they check this? Did they check that? And then it came to induction day. They induced for that one as well. And I was like, ooh, this could be like it was a normal pregnancy. It could be a very normal birth. And I haven't planned, and what am I going to do? But thankfully, that one too, I was already 6 centimeters dilated and didn't know that I had been contracting for weeks. And both my labors together are like, from the time they broke the water till the time they were born were 4.5 hours.
Oh, that's
2
short.
kids. I try not to think about it because I know if I think about it, then I'm just going to be like, what if this happens? What if that happens? Maybe I should do this. Maybe I should do that.
Because that's the reality, is like, we have no idea. When you're desiring to get pregnant, you have no idea like when that will happen. I was just thinking about this the other day. My first happened like the second month, I think. I think it took 2 months. But with Matthew, it took over 2 years. And then with Ellie, it took like 0. You just never know.
Right. And I think the world tells us this somewhat true yet somewhat inaccurate, or paints this picture like we are warrior women.
I was just thinking that. Yeah.
Mighty mamas, we are built for birth.
Birth is about empowerment.
Yeah, it is going to be easy, and we keep telling ourselves that, and when it gets tough, we're like, what in the world?
We're actually like almost the furthest from being in control.
Right.
As most life experiences.
You just feel defeated and like a failure and like, ugh. And I almost wonder if that carries into the postpartum period too, where you feel like you failed because your birth experience did not play out as you expected.
Yeah.
So every single day when you look in the mirror and you have the dark circles under your eyes and you're tired and you feel defeated.
Yeah.
Because those first few months are so hard.
You have control over nothing.
Yeah.
Not even your bladder.
That makes the postpartum period hard.
For lots of reasons, like you said, like you're sleep deprived. You can't anticipate like your baby's behavior. Like, they're not gonna sleep on your schedule. They're not gonna develop on your schedule. And then you deal with just your own body not working the way that you thought it was going to work.
It doesn't look the same as
or
it
doesn't
did
look
before.
the same. Or even, I was thinking like mentally, I was not the same after. Like, postpartum took such a huge toll on my mental health, and that felt completely out of my control. So
I think too, when you go through pregnancy, you expect hormones to be crazy. You expect to feel like a teenager going through puberty. Like, that's kind of expected because you read so much about it, but you think, okay, as soon as I give birth, that's not going to be there anymore, and I will get back to normal, and things will go back to normal, but so much changes.
It really changed the dynamic of my marriage also. Like, just in a lot of ways. I think Eric and I had different expectations, or lack thereof, really, of like what our roles would be and like how things would change. So that kind of played into like postpartum emotions also. I don't know if you had that experience.
Yeah. Well, I just remember, like, nothing. I thought, okay, the clothes that I wore before getting pregnant are gonna somewhat fit, and nothing fit the same. So I was like, these shirts that I thought would fit just don't fit right.
I literally started crying in a dressing room trying to find jeans after I had Micah. And, like, he wasn't even, like, a newborn anymore.
I know, it took me, like...
I was so frustrated, like, I didn't even know what size I was. The same brands that I had always worn didn't fit the same again. And I felt silly, like, to be so emotional about this. But, like, it just, sometimes it's hard to be different. Even if that different isn't bad.
Right.
It's still different, and you still have to adjust to it.
Actually, recently I heard someone say, like, remember, it took you 9 months
I like that, yeah.
to get this way. Give yourself 9 months to even think about going back.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so true because we just expect, like, okay, a month or 2 months, like, all right, I gotta get back to normal.
And I loved my pregnant body. That's the funny thing.
Oh, no.
And really, I loved dressing it. I loved, like, if I could tie a belt around there, I would do that. And I just, like, even, it was actually kind of recently, I was reading, someone was talking about how you loved your pregnant body because of what it was doing.
Mm-hmm.
And so love your postpartum body because of what it did. Right. That's kind of like a secular, I guess, approach to it in a way, but at the same time, I do feel like that is in line with, like, how the Bible approaches the subject, because God does care more about our hearts than our appearance. He cares more about what we do with our bodies than how our bodies look. What's something that stuck out to you in this chapter that maybe, since you're going through this right now, was particularly encouraging?
Obviously, the part about not having it all planned out,
Mm-hmm.
because even now, I think, okay, I don't necessarily have a birth plan, but I have a plan to write instructions for whoever is watching my kids, and that needs to be done before we go to the hospital. And my house should be clean and very clean because it's not cleaned for like another year.
Mm-hmm.
So just all these expectations that I place on myself that aren't necessarily, that's not part of God's plan.
More of a preference instead of like a
right.
need.
I mean, we could deliver tomorrow and I could have none of those things done. And God would not be more glorified by me having all of them done or none of them done.
Motherhood in both birth and in postpartum has been so sanctifying for me, and just has taught me to rely on God fully. Like, and what used to stress me out now brings me comfort. The reality that I can't do everything, that I can't be everything, that I can't plan everything, that I don't know everything. You know, even being pregnant, you can feel your baby, but there's so much about your baby that you don't know, even though they're literally in you. And so to just reflect on that, like that limited knowledge, and how God so lovingly cares for you and puts you in the right place, and maybe puts you in contact with the right doctor, or you read the right the perfect verse. Like, it's a tapestry of God's providential care that it just becomes so much more evident in a circumstance where you are so out of control, that you just don't have that when you're not in that postpartum and birth type of season.
And I think it's beautiful how God created us that way, because even sometimes, and like how he just sustains and nurtures a pregnancy, even
Yeah.
sometimes now as issues are coming up, and we're seeing some similar patterns in our third pregnancy that we saw with our first, and I just automatically, my mind goes to, okay, what can I do?
Right.
What can I do? But the reality is there's nothing I can do. There's nothing that I did wrong previously. There's nothing that I can do.
You're just completely reliant on, not what you can do, but what God is doing.
Mm-hmm.
And you just trust that.
And the vessel that he uses is us.
Yeah. And what a neat opportunity to be doing that. And then even in postpartum, to continue to think about yourself as a vessel.
Right.
Like your child is not in your room anymore, but they're still in your home, and in your heart, and to continue to entrust God for their care, because before they were kind of hidden away in your room, and so there's this temptation once they're out to think everything that's going on with them, but yet you don't. You for the rest of their life, you will still need that same trust. It's been good talking about this. I feel like we could talk a long time. Anytime you get women together that have had kids, there's this tendency you could talk about birth and postpartum for like days.
And even who had the worst birth.
Yeah, it's like a badge of honor.
Yeah.
But I just look forward to hearing all the conversations that you guys are going to have about this. And I would encourage you to really share, not just like the fun and funny stories, those are great, but really like hone in on how God has been faithful, because I feel like we can so encourage each other when we share those stories of God's faithfulness, and you just never know like how those stories are gonna work in each other's lives. So